Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Raw Reaction series show, in which we look at all of the Arsenal transfer news, specifically on the Arsenal transfer show, episode 111. Let's hope that it's not the nightmare number like it is for the Australians in cricket, and that today is going to be the day in which Arsenal can get their first points on the board in the Premier League. There's lots of transfer news, lots of news in general, because one of the things I want to do with the show is obviously continue this into and throughout the season to bring you all the latest Arsenal news every single morning as well. A little bit more casual. There may be a couple of breaks within that because, we've been doing 111 shows in a row. So I think you can forgive me for taking a couple of breaks throughout the season, but we're still going to try and continue the show into the new season, keeping the 8am stuff and hype going with Arsenal's news. And we do kick off the show with some news, but before we do, please make sure you drop a like on today's video. Please do subscribe if you are new around here with those notifications turned on. I saw a comment on yesterday's phone-in show that was said that this is the fairest Arsenal channel out there, and thank you. That's exactly the type of comment that we love to see. Different points of view, taking it all into account, and obviously questioning every single thread that we can. So thank you for that very kind comment, whoever you were. Let's kick on though with the news, and we do start with some positive and negative news ahead of Arsenal's game against Chelsea. First of all, starting with the news that Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang is in contention for today's game, despite obviously returning a positive test before the game against Brentford, meaning he and Lacazette and Willian and Runarsson were all ruled out. Aubameyang has since returned a negative test this week and has been back in training and was in full training yesterday. So fingers crossed he will take some part in today's game. Whether or not he can start, we will wait and see. Fingers crossed he is fit enough to start the game, because we could really do with him up top. Really could do with having him as our central striker. We'll wait and see. However, the negative news is there is rumours circulating that Ben White has since returned a positive test and he will not be involved in the game today. We are still waiting for official confirmation on that from both a number of legit sources and, of course, the club themselves, but we're waiting to hear on official lines about Ben White's absence and why he supposedly left training 20 minutes after arriving yesterday and did not arrive with the team at the meeting place last night ahead of today's game. So that is not the best news, but hopefully Aubameyang's back, which probably means that Holding will be coming in. I've got a prediction that maybe Arsenal will revert to that back three. I'm hoping that they will. I think that's what got us that win at Stamford Bridge and held us so resolute when we were in West London, and I would like to see us try that. I like the idea also of seeing Tierney play left centre-back and Nuno Tavares playing slightly ahead of him as a left wing-back, meaning that Bukayo Saka can remain as part of the front three. I'm excited to see what team is selected today by Mikel Arteta, and I'm excited to see how Arsenal get on. And so we are hoping, anyway, that we can get something from this game. But let's go into the main transfer news of the day, and we start off with the programme notes from the Kroenkes on the day of the Kroenke protest outside the Emirates, of which I'm going to be there. I'm going to be speaking to some fans of Football London. So if you are attending the protest today, make sure you come and say hi. But the Kroenkes have said in the programme note, saying we are building a squad rich in young talents, much of it developed through our wonderful academy. It is clear looking across Europe that we are dealing with a difficult transfer market due to the impacts of the pandemic. They do go on to talk about how good it was to get in the likes of Ben White, Nuno Tavares and Sambi Lokonga. At the time of writing this, we had not yet signed Ramsdale and Martin Odegaard. They had not been confirmed when these guys wrote this piece in the match day program. It seems that they're looking to spend the club's money. I should, make sure that's clear. They haven't spent anything. That they're building this squad using the club's funds. There's refinancing of loans that have gone on, but that's not money that's come in from the Kroenkes. We are yet to see a penny invested specifically from them. This is just what they're talking about, and it doesn't really give you any kind of, it doesn't give you any hope of possible investment in the future. Josh Kroenke, of course, in the fan forum said they had big plans to invest, but still we are yet to see it. Speaking of possible outs, though, one player that will not be leaving is Mohamed Elneny. He is very much in Mikel Arteta's plans. Links with Besiktas may have been there in regards to interest, but his future remains very much at Arsenal for the foreseeable of the next year. He has 1 year left on his deal. Whether or not a new contract is signed, we will wait and see. But his agent was speaking recently and said that there is intention to sign a new contract with Arsenal would take him into his 30s. Very much a utility man, seems very much happy to just be here. I'm not sure how I feel about players that are just happy to be somewhere rather than fighting for a starting place. But he does a job when in need, and it's a body at the end of the day. And sometimes clubs do need bodies, unfortunately, and he may just be one of them. But Lucas Torreira, interestingly, new club linked with a move for Lucas Torreira. He was being touted with a possible move to Italy, Roma, Lazio, for instance. But Frankfurt in the Bundesliga have now emerged as a possible destination for Lucas Torreira. The German club, I believe, just ever so slightly missed out on Champions League football last season. I am going to do an on-the-fly check last season. I'm pretty sure, was it Glasner that was the coach last season? And unfortunately, that meant that they missed out. Yes. So Glasner was Wolfsburg's coach, and then he's gone to Frankfurt this season. I'm pretty sure that's what's happened. It may be the other way around. My Bundesliga knowledge isn't up there with my Arsenal knowledge. But he obviously, Frankfurt playing in the Europa League this season, they will obviously have a lot of players in need. They've got the likes of Palacios in midfield, etc. So is it? No, it's not Palacios. Sorry, it's gone out of my head. I'm thinking of the Bayer Leverkusen guy, but Lucas Torreira could be part of that Frankfurt midfield going forwards. And if he is, hopefully we get a very decent price for Lucas Torreira. It may even be a loan. It's been touted that a loan is very much possible, and which would be a shame, I think, because if we are going to move him on, he's clearly got no future at Arsenal under Mikel Arteta anyway. So any kind of permanent fee would be good to invest a little bit later on in the club. Moving on to our next story, and Sad Kolasinac, who's moved to Fenerbahce, or Fenerbahce, as Hugh Wizzy likes to say, that this looks to be a real possibility that Kolasinac could be moving off to them. Supposedly, even a minimal fee could be being gained by Arsenal. It's not a case of a termination of his contract, which is positive. That's good. That Arsenal could even get a certain figure of money. But the biggest thing about this deal is Arsenal removing his £100,000 per week wages. That is a big thing for Arsenal, because they are a big strain on the club's finances. That's $5 million a year, and avoiding that and getting a very small fee, I think, is a really good bit of business. And eventually we've managed to get this done, and so that's certainly a positive for the club. Now, moving on to the possible ins, one player that has, of course, now moved on from Sassuolo after interest from Arsenal was Locatelli. Now, the Sassuolo president or CEO has been speaking about kind of this deal, and the fact he confirmed that Arsenal had a €40 million bid rejected, not by Sassuolo, but by Locatelli himself. We kind of knew this already. And he came out and was speaking basically in terms of it didn't matter what Arsenal paid. He was never going to choose Arsenal. He was going to go to Juventus. And I think this is a microcosm of this window, is that Arsenal have wanted to go in for certain players, and they've just not wanted to come. Like, we talk about how well Man United done by bringing in the Varans of this world. The Varans of this world were never going to go to Arsenal when there are Champions League clubs out there. And that's why it's so key for us to get back into that Champions League. It might take a bit of time, but we need to be building towards that. And that's why yesterday's debate on the phone-in was so interesting. But the fact that we actually bid €40 million for a central midfielder, for me, it does have a knock-on effect in certain things that we are going to be talking about in a second. One of those is the fact that there is still interest in Marco Asensio, of all people, from Real Madrid, an attacking midfielder that can play in wide areas, a wide playmaker, if you will. I don't get this link at all. We've signed Martin Odegaard. We have Smith Rowe, Saka, Pepe, Martinelli, Aubameyang, can all play in wide areas. It doesn't make much sense for me to spend another 30 plus million quid on a 25-year-old attacking midfielder. We've got players in that position. If we've got the money, it's there. Why on earth are we not going for Yves Bissouma? Yves Bissouma had a great game yesterday for Brighton. Great 2-0 win. I think he assisted Neil Maupay's goal as well. I certainly got the points on fantasy football for it. But it just frustrates me that there was a €40 million bid put in for Locatelli. Arsenal are still being linked with big moves to other areas of the pitch, which is necessary, of course, like right back, and we'll talk about that in a second. But Yves Bissouma, there is 10 days left of the window, I think, around that. there is time for them to recognise that we still need to add that quality midfielder. We talked about it on the phone-in show yesterday. We talked about the fact that this is an opportunity this summer for Arsenal to go and improve two key areas of the team, one being right back, one being centre midfield. Just because we have signed Granit Xhaka up to that new contract does not mean that we cannot still add depth. So what that he signed a new deal? That doesn't mean that he is destined to play that starting role forever. And if there's a chance to upgrade on that position still, that's fine. Xhaka will have to fight for his place and not be so comfortable with his position. And so we should 100% be looking at investing in Bissouma. They talk about wanting young players. He's 24, and that is still very young for a midfielder, and he's got plenty of years ahead of him to improve and get better. And that's it. Wilson, why am I so obsessed with Bissouma? Is it an obsession? I feel like I haven't talked about Bissouma for a long, long time, to be honest. But the fact of the matter is that he improves the midfield. He's exactly what we want. He has all the characteristics that we need. And more importantly, Wilson, is he is an upgrade upon what we already have, which must be the minimum expectation when looking into a transfer window. Upgrading on certain positions. We upgraded our backup left back. We upgraded our backup keeper. We upgraded our backup central midfielder with Sambi Lokonga. We've upgraded in the centre-back area with Ben White. And we've upgraded in terms of the depth and the quality in attacking midfield with Martin Odegaard. We now need to upgrade the starting 11, which was always and always should have been the priority at the beginning of the window. Like, we could have been doing our backup market stuff now. Like, we could have been sorting out your Tavares of this world now in the last final weeks of the window, not sorting out players that we desperately need to have in and starting with 10 days to go. And that's the failure of this. And Manoj, I know that people bring up the African Cup of Nations. I mean, I don't know how involved Bissouma's going to be. He's not played for Mali since, 2018? So, and that's 3 games, 1 month, should not affect a 4 to 5 year contract. And thinking about that, and of course, there'll be other African Cup of Nations. But the point of the matter is that at the moment, we've now got Xhaka, we've got Lokonga, we've got players there, Aziz, Maitland-Niles. That's enough cover. Bring him in. It's not. There's nothing about the African Cup of Nations for me that stops this deal, because we've kept Xhaka. He's still here. It doesn't matter. So why are we not pushing? I like to think I stay quite calm, but I really, really, genuinely do not understand this not happening. It really, really bugs me. It really bugs me that we've not done what we've needed to do in central midfield. And that's on Edu and that's on Arteta for not getting this done. And if it isn't done, it's because we didn't push enough. And you can say that we needed to move players out first. Well, we've got an ownership that's been protested against about today. If we'd have had a bit more investment, maybe we could have done. But we still do need to move players out. We're going to be moving Kolasinac out. Hopefully, Lucas Torreira is going to go as well. It's very frustrating. The right back area is also something a little bit later on this morning. Make sure you tune in. I will be doing one of the final tactical breakdowns of the summer window, looking specifically at Kieran Trippier, making statistical comparisons between himself, Bellerin, Max Aarons, and Emerson. So that'll be coming out a little bit later today. I'll be joined by John Driscoll, host of La Liga Weekly, and of course, the writer of the 50 most influential players in history, which included Mesut Ozil, believe it or not. John will be joining us to have a talk through Kieran Trippier with myself, going through the stats with him and talking about all of that. So make sure you hit that like button, make sure you hit that subscription button, and more importantly, hit the notification bell so you know when it's going to go live. It's probably going to go out around 10:30-ish this morning, so only in a couple of hours' time. So make sure you are prepped for that and ready. Finally, of course, we are playing Chelsea today, and that means there is usually a Raw Reaction show. Now, I am working this afternoon. I am doing the game for Football London, working from 2 till 10. And so for that reason, we will be doing our show late tonight, well after the game's completed. So if you're hoping to tune in straight after the game, apologies. You won't be able to see me doing that. And that is going to be the case for quite a few games this season. Nearly all of them, because I am obviously working as an Arsenal writer now, so I am working most of these games. So I can only apologise for that, but it's needs must, and priorities, of course, is my work. So the show will be out later. I'm assuming it'll be late tonight. This is not a promise. I'm hoping that I can do it late tonight when my shift is over, but it may be tomorrow morning. We will wait and see. But that completes today's news. Plenty of it, plenty to discuss, plenty to panic and worry about ahead of the game against Chelsea. And now we move on to the second half of today's show, which is where you have any questions. You can throw them into the chat box and we will try and go and through as many of them as feasibly possible. So please do throw them into the chat and I'll try and answer as many as I can for you guys. Let's go for John P, who says, "Hi, Tom. First time catching the show live this year. Great work. Thanks, John, and welcome. Why do you consider the spending this year as not investment? Borrowing money is cheaper than spending your own due to interest rates." Look, John, from the way that you're talking, clearly you know a lot more about financial investment than me. I talk about it as not investment because we've not seen any money go directly from the ownership into the club in terms of transfers. That's what I talk about investment. I understand in part at a very basic level that it is better to refinance a loan and for the payments to be spread out over a longer period of time or whatever. I get that. But if the difference for me, John, is us doing this refinancing of the loan, we spend the club's money on these players, and the difference between the difference between the window stopping with what we have right now and bringing in an upgrade at right back and an upgrade at centre midfield that would push us towards hopefully achieving our targets. And if we were able to do that with investment, if the investment's the difference between those two things, that's what I feel a genuinely committed owner to improving the team would change, that they would invest in those moments to go the extra distance to improve this team to what it needs to be for the season ahead. That's, for me, the criticisms that I have, John. Wes says, would you rather sell Lacazette and sign Dominic Calvert-Lewin or sign Bissouma? I would rather keep Lacazette and sign Bissouma rather than sell Lacazette and get Calvert-Lewin and not sign Bissouma. So, yeah, I'd rather get in Bissouma, Wes, because I look at centre midfield as a more important area to improve in our team than striker. Dirk says, is Bissouma a legitimate possibility? Would you rather him? It's a possibility as long as Arsenal have the money, Dirks. If Arsenal had the money, which we assume to know that they could have, they put in that 40 million euro bid for Locatelli. They were only expecting to get around 20 million euros for Xhaka, if at all, if they sold him. And so you know that money's still there and available to use. And so and they were already looking at bringing in Ramsdale. They wanted Ramsdale. They wanted Ødegaard. They was already going to do that. So it's not like that money was then spent elsewhere. Bissouma is a possibility as long as Arsenal have the window open and they have the money to spend. Would I rather him over a right back? No, right back for me is the most crucial position in the window going forwards for the rest of this for me now. Right back, I've looked at as such a tactically weak position for us that we are so lopsided to the left and that Pepe is so underhelped. You know what I mean? It's just not helped by the fact that our right backs do not have the capacity to overlap as much, to play him in, to force him more inside, that because our right backs are so lazy, is lazy the right word? Lackadaisical. They don't get up the field enough. They don't push to the byline enough that Pepe is so forced far out wide that he can't have that much of an impact on the game. I want to play him more inside, and he would be forced to do that if our right backs overlapped a lot more. And we'll be talking a lot about this when we cover Kieran Trippier later on this morning. Social DRG says, if we generate a certain amount of cash per season and it doesn't get spent on transfers, where does that money go? Because we don't see double spending the next window. I don't know where it goes, Social. It goes into the club. It goes into wages. It goes into just spending. But we have spent more than we have made over the last few seasons, a lot more. Like we've spent nearly over the last 10 years, 500 million more than we've made. So it's not like we're saving. It's not like we're saving whatsoever. Ian says, hi, Tom. Your opinion on media coverage of AFC currently, Keogh, Merson, Carragher, 2+ pages in the Mail, just destroying Arsenal. In my opinion, it's lazy, unreasonable, and unbalanced. And there is a bandwagon being jumped on right now. Look, hey, I am critical a lot of opinions that don't seem to come from any other place than just it being fashionable to bash Arsenal. I thought the Merson's comments the other day just seemed like they were just bashing Arsenal without really genuinely looking at it. I feel like the comments about the window are coming without context. I don't rate the window beyond, say, a 6.5 or 7 out of 10. But I understand why Arsenal are spending this amount of money on the players that they're spending. So when they talk about, they've spent 130 million and they've not improved the team. One, that's a lie, because we have improved the squad. We have improved the squad with 130 plus million spent, because we've done business in areas that we needed to. We needed a backup left back. We needed a backup keeper. We needed to add depth into the central part of the midfield. We did need to improve the centre back area, and we did need to improve the attacking midfield area. And we've done all those things. The problem is we haven't improved the two other key areas of the team that needed a buff, which is central midfield in a starting capacity and right back in a starting capacity. We are yet to do those two things. But we had to spend the money that we've spent on those players because we needed to improve those specific areas of the squad. It's just not gone enough to push me over a 7 because we've not got the centre mid, not got the right back, and we've not sold well enough this window. That's where I'm at. And it frustrates me that there is such a short-sighted view of Arsenal's transfer window by people who are getting a lot more exposure in the media and have therefore an influence on opinions out there in the wider world. Michelle, thank you so much for becoming a member, mate. Really do appreciate that and the support that you're showing to the channel. Really do, mate. Tim says, are we talking about Bissouma because new links have emerged because he had another good game? Great show. We're talking about Bissouma, Tim, because there's time left in the window and because Arsenal have been confirmed to have easily offered 40 million euros for Manuel Locatelli previously, while still having the plan and the ideas to go for your Ramsdales and the Odegaards of this world. If the money is there, if the gap is there in the squad, there is time for Arsenal to go for Bissouma, and they should go for Bissouma. And they absolutely, and that's the one thing when we discussed with Rohit yesterday, who had very differing views to myself and a lot of the others that were on the show yesterday, but you put them across very well. One of the things he says was that Bissouma should have been signed, and I cannot disagree with that. Bissouma absolutely should have been a target this window. Ben P says, do you think we haven't gone for Bissouma due to the AFCON, as we will be without him, Partey and Elneny during those harsh times of fixtures, and one injury to Xhaka or Lokonga could derail our season? I don't think so, Ben, because if you think about it, it's what, a 3 to 4 game period. You're talking about a lot of hypotheticals of Lokonga or Xhaka getting injured. The fact that Xhaka is now staying, for me, it covers that idea. Because originally it was Xhaka going to go, and the argument was you don't bring in Bissouma as a replacement for Xhaka because of the AFCON. Now, Xhaka's staying. So if that was the argument before, that can't be applied here because it doesn't make too much sense to discuss it in the same terms. If Xhaka was gone and we were replacing him with Bissouma, then we may have something to talk about. But because Xhaka's staying, it doesn't make sense to bring it up as a factor as to why we wouldn't do that deal. Let's go. Alison, well said, Tom, about the transfer window pundits' views. Thank you, Alison. Appreciate that. Ronit says, after Xhaka signed the contract, we won't go after Bissouma. It's not realistic. Steve Stone says, if we fail to upgrade centre mid and right back this window, do you feel it will be a false economy, as we will then miss out on the Europe next season? False economy, I'm not sure about the terminology, Steve. I think that it would be, I think it's a failed window if we don't improve those two positions of the field this summer. Because if you think about it, if we do achieve European football next season, then we've got more games and it's going to be harder for us to get into the top 4. This season, whilst it was unlikely top 4 to be a target, it is more likely for me this summer or this season that we don't have European football to try, fight for that place, to get to that top 4 spot. It was more likely when we didn't have the commitments in Europe to achieve a top 4 place. And so to not improve the starting 11 as much as we needed to is a failure. It is a failure for me. So it's a big L. As I keep watching videos of people call them big L's. So we're gonna transition our terminology. It's a big L for Edu. You can hold that L, is what you can do. Luke says, does it frustrate you when it seems the pundits always seem to put Arsenal down? It does me. It seems like we have to play prime Barca to get praise from them. Look, at the end of the day, Arsenal were held to such high acclaim during the playing days of most of those pundits. To see the club where it is now is obviously much, much lower. It's also, it's fashionable as well to kind of jump on a bit of a bandwagon against Arsenal because you're going to rile the fans. We're a very reactionary fan base. Let's not beat around the bush. We know that we're a sensitive bunch. We know we react to things. That's why I do a raw reaction show. It's literally the names in the title. And so those things that are said are gonna get a reaction, and they have done. But I am frustrated at times when some of the comments lack context, lacked thinking, lack deeper thought. That's what frustrates me, is that sometimes words are kind of just spewed out without any kind of thinking behind them, just because it's known that a reaction will be got. And it's true. It does frustrate, but at the same time, I have a level of understanding and maturity about it. No Sleep says, how about Bissouma as a replacement for Elneny? He's wanted by Besiktas. That way, we don't have any players going to the African Cup of Nations numbers-wise. If we could replace Elneny with Bissouma, obviously, dream scenario. Manu says, everybody talking smack about Elneny until he does a Park-esque masterclass against Jorginho. Pirlo tonight. Park-esque. I don't know who that is. When you says Park, I think of Ji-sung Park, who was just the most underrated Manchester United player of all time, arguably. But maybe Elneny does a Partey-esque performance. That is what we would much appreciate, Manu. You said what says, I like Bissouma, but I would go for him. Unless Elneny leaves, which I am. I rather like him as well, and get another centre mid in. We have too many African Cup of Nations players in the midfield. We will be short if something happens. Look, I bring this up. Xhaka's staying. Xhaka was never meant to stay. Like, we never thought Xhaka was staying, and so that, for me anyway, is a big tell to say that getting Bissouma in is a bonus. On top of that, it's a bonus because we thought we were going to replace Xhaka with someone. So if we get in a centre mid, that's a difference. That adds. It doesn't replace. So, let's go to Jasho. It says, morning, Tom. I don't rate Elneny, but did you realise he did start in all of our league wins against top 4 teams last season? Jasho, no, I didn't know that. And I think that comes down to the fact that we played a much more different style against those top 4 teams. One of the things, and whilst we've got a lot of criticisms of Arteta, one of the things you can't criticise is that our results against the top 6 sides have definitely improved. And especially away from home. The way we compete in those games has definitely improved. Win against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge in the league. When have we beaten Chelsea in the league at Stamford Bridge? The last time I remember is when Van Persie scored a hat-trick in the 5-3 win. I remember that day because it was my first time at the Emirates Stadium, believe it or not. That's how young I am. But in terms of wins away from home, Manchester United at Old Trafford, that was the first win since, I think, 2015 when we beat Manchester City. Like, that has improved, and it's the style that we go for. So I'm hoping that we've got a little bit tiny hope today against Chelsea, knowing that we've done it before, knowing that we've beaten them twice in the league last season. And we just got our fingers crossed, hope that we play like we did at the Emirates last season, and we can just, get one over them. But Lukaku being there, Tuchel being their coach now, it's a different beast. It's an absolutely different beast, quite literally. It's just... Lukaku is such a top quality, intelligent striker that just knows football, knows how to bring players into the game, knows how to unlock players like Timo Werner. And the expectation he will revel in. He will not buckle. Lukaku, he's straight on my fantasy team because he just is, I just feel like the perfect Premier League striker. He is the return of Didier Drogba, as Didier Drogba said himself, and it does seem to be that same striker type that they've now got. And I worry about Chelsea dominance moving forwards with Lukaku as their striker, because that is just, it's a worry. It's a big, big worry. Andy, yes, I would play a back 3 today. James says, hey, Tom, can we get to your starting 11 for today? Are you confident that we can get a result? I did my your pick this one. I feel like I'm at a disadvantage in the your pick team race from Arsenal Review because I'm just telling everyone my lineup every week. But I will tell you, I went with Leno. I went for a back 3 of Chambers, Holding, and Tierney. I went for Holding over Marie because Holding's done quite well in these games before. Like, you think of the FA Cup finals, you think of him playing against Chelsea and these big sides. He's just good when we're kind of back against the wall at times. And so I put Holding in over Marie. Tierney at left centre back because I want to see Nuno Tavares play at left wing back. I want to see. Now, what did I put at right wing back? I think I put Ainsley Maitland-Niles at right wing back, but I would be fine with Cedric. Either of those two, we're pretty lackluster in options, to be honest. Lokonga and Xhaka in centre midfield, and then a front 3 of Smith Rowe, Aubameyang, and Saka. I did bench Pepe, believe it or not. I just think unless we've got a right back that's really going to help Pepe out, Pepe's going to struggle. He really needs a quality right back to help him, and Saka doesn't. And I feel like Saka on the break and defensively gives us more on the right-hand side to cover, say, someone pushing forwards. So there's that element of it as well. That's the team. 3-4-3. I start Aubameyang. Very risky, I know. If not, probably Martinelli. But yeah, that's what I'm going for. No Andy, no Ben White, because he's probably not going to play, mate, from the sounds of things. Rumours are that he's not available, unfortunately. Vishal says, I hear you, mate, that's a legit concern, but we have Xhaka and Lokonga as starters. I think we may have Partey as well. He did opt out of playing for Ghana once. Maybe he'll. I don't think he will. I think Partey will go off to the AFCON. That is for sure. Dan says, Tom, are you forgetting how good Pepe was with Cedric behind him? I'm not forgetting it. I just don't necessarily think Cedric's going to play. And I haven't picked Cedric in my team, Dan. You have to remember that as well. I've put Maitland-Niles there. So I've put Saka in as my preferred team. I don't know if that's what we're going to do, but we'll wait and see. Let's go with No Sleeper says it will be interesting to see if we've learned our lessons from pre-season game against Chelsea. Vishal says, Tom, do you reckon Bissouma plays better in a 2-man 4-2-3-1 or a 3-man 4-3-3 midfield? I think he can play in either, but he does like to be a little bit more expressive. So if you are going to play him in a 4-3-3, maybe you wouldn't play him as a 6. Maybe you would go for the 4-2-3-1 to give him that person next to him. But I still think he can play as a lone 6. Maybe you would tell him to be slightly different. Asmarom says, Tom, why do you think all teams like Brighton, Villa, Everton and Spurs are improving without spending much compared to Arsenal, but Arsenal keep regressing even though we have top players? Asmarom, I think it should be fairly obvious that there is one person there that I would say is, in charge of the coaching, in charge of the system, in charge of the way that we're playing. And that's the only real person that you can point at. OG says Bissouma or Guimaraes. I love Guimaraes, but I would choose Bissouma, I think, now, based on Premier League experience. I think I would probably lean back towards Bissouma. I know I've gone between the two this summer. I just don't know what it is. I'm just getting the feels regarding Bissouma. So I think probably lean more towards Bissouma now. But I love Guimaraes as well. Any of them, either of them, I'd be absolutely buzzing with. I don't think the Guimaraes stuff was that genuine. I said it at the start. I said it was too easy. I said it was too easy of a link to make at the time. It does seem to be that is the case. We never saw anything about an official bid. We never saw anything from our legit sources about talks. It came from Brazil. It was it wasn't very legit, the Guimaraes links. I don't think there was too much genuine. I don't think it was genuine. And I said that at the start. So I'll double down on it. Tim says, on the pandemic, how many players do you think need to test positive before a game gets postponed this season? 4 wasn't enough for us. Interesting to see how other teams. Well, yeah, they've set a benchmark now. 4 players is not enough. You need more. You need a significant part of your squad, it seems. You need a bit of an outbreak, it seems, to actually have a game postponed. Am I surprised they didn't postpone it? No, absolutely not. I'm not surprised they didn't postpone it whatsoever. So, yeah. Amruf says, do you think Arsenal are taking Bissouma signing for granted and keeping it for deadline day? I don't think they're taking it for granted. I just don't think they're not doing it. So there you go. Ian Morgan says, love Elneny, especially after he took on Man United on his own in the 90th minute. Yeah, that was a great video. Insane energy, just not quite enough quality. And that's the thing, is that I have a lot of respect for Elneny and what he's done, but he's just not good enough. I wouldn't say a bad word about Elneny in regards to kind of his mentality. I just don't think that he's good enough. I just don't think he's got the quality. Jay says, Tom, who is the club's money? It stands. When you say that he's not investing, that's incorrect. What your argument should be is that you want more investment. No, it's not true. Stan's not made that money. He owns the club. He's a passive owner. It's not his money. Let me rephrase that. Technically it doesn't make sense because he is the 100% owner. It's not investment. An investment is when the owner of something puts his own money from an exterior fund from something else into whatever it is, one of the things he owns. Let me try and think. If I buy a shop, let's say it's a football shop selling, balls and shirts and whatever. If I put my own money into that shop so that we can purchase better quality products, better quality footballs, better quality shirts, I'm investing. If over a year I don't invest, I don't put any money into it, and the shop, say, makes £1,000 profit, and I put £500 of that £1,000 that I've made into improving the shop, which is not a lot, but you know what I mean, I'm still not investing in the shop because it's not my money. It's the profit that's been made from the shop. So the club's money is its money. It's not Stan's money. He's not investing. He's using the money is being used from what the club has already, or is refinanced by a loan or whatever. But it's not an investment. It's not Stan's money. He's not investing because he's not putting his money from elsewhere into the club. That's not happening. So I'm sorry, Jay, but you're wrong there. I don't agree with you. Lokonga Elneny partnership tonight, boys. Let's go. Arsenal legend says, Tom, when you said that we have improved the squad, it's the same team as last year. Well, team and squad are two different things. If you want to say we improved the starting 11, then you would say that only very minimally. It has improved, let's be real. Ben White's better than Rob Holding. Erdegaard's come in, who wasn't here at the start of last season. But we've improved the squad. So to say that we've not improved the squad is a lie. We have improved the squad, but we haven't improved the starting 11 enough, in my opinion, to really, say that we've made a genuine impact. Which is why when you see people going, "Oh, look how much money Arsenal have spent," it's without context. It doesn't make sense. So that's the issue I have with that. OG says, Tom, where do you think we'd finish at the end of the season with the current midfield? 6th to 8th again. Between 6th and 8th is what I would say. I think that's a realistic kind of width of positions. Adam says, hey, Tom, thank you for the great content. Thanks, mate. Do you think that we are not going for Bissouma because Brighton are so hard to deal with? No, I don't think so. I think we're not going for him because I think Arteta's pretty content, it seems, with the midfield. He's content with keeping Xhaka. The club's content with that. I might be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. And I hope that they do go for a midfielder. But it just does seem... And a lot of people are throwing Aziz. Aziz ain't ready, guys. He's showing a lot of promise. He looks like a great talent. He's a kid still. He's got a lot more development to do. Give him time in a cup game. But I don't know why we do this. I don't know why we throw. Look at Balogun. I know he didn't get too many chances in that first game against Brentford, and I do not criticise his performance. But I think you could tell from his movement, from the way that he played, from the way that he really, the touches that he took in that chance, which he arguably was fouled in the box, but it wasn't given, all of that. He's still a kid, no matter how good they look at under 23 level. Going up to senior level from under 23s is a huge leap. It's a massive leap. And so to say that Aziz should be getting minutes in the Premier League, I just think is a little naive. I just think it's just not... To throw Aziz into the Premier League now would be a mistake. It would be a mistake. So I'd really gradually acclimatise him with League Cup games against senior sides. I would have arguably sent him on loan this season to a championship team. I think that would have been a really good thing for him. They've said that he's impressed in pre-season, and that's why he's not going to go. But without European football, I don't know where we're going to get loads of minutes for him. If he doesn't play against West Brom in that game in the League Cup, then what's the point of keeping him? If he doesn't start in that, if he doesn't at least get a half against West Brom, I feel like we've wasted 6 months of his time. If not that, if he doesn't go out on loan for the second half of the season, again, I think we've wasted time. So we need to manage these kids because the hype around them and the way in which people just want to throw them into the first team, I just think it's naive and really it's without thought. It's without consideration of where we're at. It's without considering. It's funny, isn't it? Because there is a complete contradiction between the desperation, the need for us to get top 4, to be a big team again, and also that Arteta apparently doesn't give kids a chance. How on earth do you balance those two things? How do you desperately get more kids, which, by the way, we've got Smith Rowe, we've got Saka, we've got a 21-year-old Tavares now in the team, we've got a 21-year-old Lokonga playing, we've got a 23-year-old Ben White, 23-year-old Gabriel, we've got Smith Rowe, as already talked about, we've got Martinelli and Balogun playing in the first game of the season, 23-year-old Ramsdale coming in. I don't get this whole not giving kids a chance and yet still wanting to get us into the top 4. How on earth are you supposed to do that when you've got Chelsea, Liverpool, Man United, Man City that have got basically 1 or 2 kids, if that, starting, and then the rest are senior professionals that have been playing at the top of the game for years? How on earth are we meant to do that? How do we get into the top 4 whilst trying to push all these kids into the team? It's not going to happen. You're not going to get into the top 6. You look at Leicester and their squad. How many young kids are in that Leicester team? Barely any. Barely any. West Ham's team last season that got into the top 6 had some really good players in. One of the most influential players in the second half of the season, Jesse Lingard. How old's Jesse Lingard? Well, he ain't a kid. How old's Thomas Souček? Not a kid. Declan Rice is young, but he's not a kid anymore. But it's really important that we think about things contextually, about what our expectations are and what you want to have set, like what you want to have the team, what you want the team to look like. I don't want 5 21-year-olds in the team. I want a balanced team. That's why I'm really game for Kieran Trippier to coming into the right back position, because it balances things. Like I like Max Aarons. I like Emerson. I like those guys. But chucking another 23-whatever-year-old into the back line, is that really going to give us the balance that we need in the squad? I'm not sure that it is. So that when we go 1-0 down against these big teams, have those young guys got the know-how, the experience to galvanise the group and get us back? We got 8th last season because the experienced guys let us down. We got 8th last season because those kids dragged us through results in the second half of last season. Ødegaard, at the time, had only just turned 22. Still pushing us towards that with Smith Rowe, a 20-year-old at the time. And another thing, like, we're desperate for Saliba. Saliba's still a kid as well. Like, Saliba's just 20 years old. And I put a tweet out this morning, which was risky because I know that there's a kind of a bit of a cult following around Saliba. But Ahmad Diallo at Manchester United, a young kid that was brought in from Atalanta, I think it was, he is desperate to go on loan to a Premier League club. A Premier League club. There's been offers from abroad. He doesn't want to go there. He wants to go to a Premier League club on loan because why? He wants to play in the Premier League. He wants to play for Manchester United, and he wants to show them that he can do it at this level. And I question why Saliba pushed so hard to go to Marseille when there were interested parties in the Premier League. I question it. I really do. I question how the clubs handled him. They've treated him absolutely dreadfully. I'd never, ever say that they haven't. They have treated him poorly. They treated him worse than arguably any other player in that squad. But I question why he didn't go to the Premier League. I really do. And maybe if Arteta's not here at the end of the season because we've got rid of him, we've got a new coach in, maybe Saliba stays. Maybe Saliba sees that situation as different. And I hope he succeeds. I'm desperate for Saliba to succeed at Arsenal because there is a really, really big potential player in that kid. He's still got a lot of improvement to do. It was very clear during the Nice loan that he's got a lot more to change. But look, we can't be forcing 20-year-olds into every position in the team. We just can't do that. So there you go. There's a nice rant to end the show. Oh, dearie me. There you go. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. Please do drop a like on today's video if you've enjoyed it. And even if you haven't, of course, I'll be back with you guys in about 2 hours' time to talk to you a lot more about Kieran Trippier with a tactical breakdown on him. I will then be back not till very late this evening to talk about Arsenal-Chelsea. I am working, for those that don't know. I'm going to be working throughout most of the Arsenal games this season for Football London and for Reach. So therefore, I will only be doing the raw reactions most of the time anyway, not straight after the games. I'm pretty sure I can do the West Brom game straight after, because I don't think I'm working that one. But today, I'm in London. I'm at the Emirates interviewing fans at the protest. I want to get their thoughts and feelings for Each and for Football London. We want to hear from why they're protesting. Why now? What are they saying? Why do you want to protest now? We've spent all this money. Why are you still protesting? I've got my answers to those questions, but I want their answers. So if you are at the Emirates, if you want to tell me why you're angry at the Kroenkes, we're going to be there later talking to plenty of fans, and I look forward to it. And yeah, it's going to be nice to be around the ground on a match day and get that kind of atmosphere back into me. It's been too long since I've ever been there for that kind of match day vibe. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Anyway, see you later, guys. Have a fantastic day. See you in a bit, about 2 hours or so for the Trippier breakdown. But other than that, see you soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.